In the farthest quadrant of the outer rim, where even gravity wore a patchy signal and the stars blinked like they were losing patience, a quiet bar hovered in orbit over a forgotten moon. It was called the Final Sip, and it had served exactly one drink to every war criminal, fugitive philosopher, and third-tier deity that had ever sworn they were done with violence. Tonight, it served 3. Cruel the Skin Eater sipped his plasma mead through a custom titanium straw, each of his 6 yellow eyes watching a different corner of the bar. His armor, stitched from the tongues of extinct beasts, rustled faintly with every movement. He hadn't spoken since he arrived. That was normal. He preferred to let his knives do the introductions. Next to him, a shifting smear of color rippled into the shape of a humanoid woman, then a dog, then a cloud. Vex of Void Echo had no mouth but communicated in sharp, haiku bursts transmitted psychically. Her presence felt like standing in the shadow of a collapsing idea, which, funnily enough, she'd once literally been. The third member of the table was an AI named Marvin, who had installed himself into a refurbished Earth appliance, a chrome toaster. Currently perched on a stack of bounty chips, he hummed Take On Me through static and adjusted his little antenna with theatrical flair. "Drink's warm," Marvin chirped. Or maybe that's me. Hard to tell without hands. "You do not drink," Kroll growled. "I do not bleed either, but I've exploded twice and kept talking." The bar's lights dimmed. Someone important had just entered, or someone about to die. Sometimes both. A hunched, pale creature, draped in regal silks 2 sizes too large, limped toward them flanked by 2 anxious bodyguards. His face wore a nervous grin that didn't fool any of the assassins at the table. "Gentlemen," the Emperor wheezed, then paused as he spotted Vex's slowly melting form. "And a nightmare, ma'am." "I'm honored." "Speak," Kroll said. One of his knives twitched, already half-drawn from a shoulder holster. The Emperor sat, producing a black cube and placing it between them. The cube unfolded, projecting a flickering hologram of a woman in an apron, sweeping a porch that did not exist. "I have a job for you. Final job. Pay so large it'll buy you a private dimension to scream in." "What's the target?" Marvin asked, already scanning the woman's image. The Emperor's eyes darted to the exits, the floor, and finally back to the toaster. "Baba Yaga." No one laughed. Not even Marvin. The silence stretched until even the bar's jukebox glitched and shut itself off. "That's not funny," Marvin said, voice low. "I'm not joking." "She's dead," Kroll said flatly. "Died 40 years ago on Terran soil. She was cremated using 5 neutron bombs and a fleetum." The Emperor leaned in, whispering with all the seriousness of a condemned man. Then explained the massacre at Elgar Prime. The dead who rose and started tap dancing. The sun that wept blood. All signs point to her being active again. "She's not dead. She's hiding." "She's resting," Marvin muttered. "Retirement's not a crime." "She tore a dreadnought in half with a soup spoon," the Emperor hissed. "She summoned a storm by humming an 80s love ballad in reverse. We need her removed." "She doesn't kill indiscriminately," Vex projected. "Only bad men. Or rude baristas." "We're assassins," Kroll said. "Not idiots." "What's the pay?" The Emperor smiled. "Enough to erase your names from all archives. To buy your ancestors better lives. Enough to forget you ever existed." Kroll sipped again. Tempting. The cube shifted again, revealing coordinates. A small, Terran-class world on the edge of known space, labeled only as Old Earth restricted. "No direct landing," the Emperor added quickly. "We'll drop you nearby. Then it's up to you. Get in. Get out. Kill the witch." Marvin popped his toast tray in agitation. "You're sending us to Earth. You do realize what happened the last time someone invaded Earth?" "They started exporting sarcasm as a weapon," Vex whispered. "I don't care how human she looks," the Emperor said. "She's a cosmic aberration in an apron. End her." Kroll stood. "Fine. One last job." Marvin sighed. "Toast me, boys. We're doing this." The journey took 12 standard hours and 3 existential crises. They rowed a covert vessel, blacker than law and smaller than taste, dropping out of light speed with the elegance of a sledgehammer through lace. The planet below loomed, quiet, green, and suspiciously perfect. "Looks peaceful," Marvin said. "Peaceful planets are like smooth rocks in rivers," Cruel muttered. "Something's waiting underneath." As they descended, comms crackled with fragments of Earth radio, commercials, sitcom laugh tracks, and once, an unbroken 4-minute loop of careless whisper played through static. No visible cities. No signs of modern life. Just forests. Mist. And in the middle of it all, a small cabin with a slanted chimney and smoke rising in an unbroken spiral. No defenses. No satellites. No way it was real. They landed a mile out. The forest greeted them not with birdsong, but with silence so deep it pressed against the eardrums. Trees twisted in impossible angles. The air smelled of cinnamon and war crimes. Kroll led. Vex shimmered beside him, shifting between human and fox. Marvin hovered quietly behind in a stolen hoverpack. "Stay on the path," Marvin whispered. "There is no path." Exactly. They walked. 1 hour. Then 2. The cabin never got closer. The trees never repeated, but always looked familiar. Finally, a shape. A teddy bear, sodden and old, sitting on a stump. "One eye missing." A soft hum coming from nowhere. As they passed, the teddy bear's head turned 360 degrees. It opened its stitched mouth. "She's expecting you." They froze. Marvin's hoverpack whined. "Nope. No. Nope. No." The forest breathed. The cabin appeared just 20 feet ahead, as if it had always been there. Light in the windows. Curtains swaying. A kettle's whistle just audible. "I don't want to be toaster crumbs," Marvin muttered. Kroll stepped forward. "Mission. In. Out." They approached. The door creaked open before they could knock. Warm light spilled out. A woman's silhouette moved behind lace curtains. "Hello." Marvin called out. "Delivery for, intergalactic doom grandma." No answer. Kroll entered first. Weapons ready. Vex glided behind. The interior looked cozy. Floral wallpaper. A rocking chair. Bookshelves lined with titles like Galactic Negotiation for Dummies and How to Bake a Galaxy. On the kitchen table, 3 cups of tea, perfectly placed. One had a lemon wedge. One had cream. One had no additions, just black, strong, steaming. She knew they were coming. Vex scanned the room. No signs of combat tech. No signs of her, either, Marvin whispered. Kroll reached for a cup. The steam curled upward, not like smoke, but like fingers. The liquid inside formed words. They all read the same. "Sit." The door slammed shut behind them. Something giggled under the floorboards. Then, from the back room, footsteps. Soft. Measured. Like someone with time to burn and stories to bury. She entered. A woman in her 60s, wearing a gray shawl and slippers. Her hair was silver, tied in a braid that reached her waist. Her eyes? Hidden behind old lady glasses that somehow reflected stars. She didn't speak. She poured herself a cup. Then she sat, hands folded, smiling. Marvin buzzed nervously. "So, Baba Yaga." She raised an eyebrow. Kroll lifted his blade. She lifted her teacup. The blade twisted midair. Kroll screamed as the metal turned liquid and dripped into his boot. Oh wow," Marvin said. That's a first." Baba Yaga finally spoke, voice as smooth as velvet and sharp as regret. "I was hoping for better company, but assassins are predictable." Vex bowed her head. "Forgive us, O Witch of Woods. We were misinformed." "I know," she sipped. "And I'm going to let you leave." Marvin blinked. "You are?" "Of course," she said, smiling wide, but not unchanged. The door creaked open again. Outside, the forest was gone. A meadow now, with sunflowers taller than dreams. "Go. Tell your masters. Tell them I am not what they fear." She stood. Her eyes glowed faintly. "Tell them I am what comes after what they fear." They didn't run. They walked. Slowly, as though leaving church. Or a funeral. Only when they boarded the ship did Marvin dare whisper, "What now?" Kroll stared at his melted blade. Vex was silent. Marvin buzzed again. Guys! Behind them, far off in the trees, a kettle whistled again. And, in the static, a voice. One last job, hmm? Let's see who survives next time. Kroll didn't speak for the first hour after they left the cabin. He just stared at the melted hilt of his once prized blade, the hilt that now reeked faintly of chamomile and shame. Vex moved beside him like a fogged mirror, silent, unmoored, flickering through forms in rapid succession. A child, a shadow, a fox, a heap of letters that spelled regret in 7 languages. Marvin was the only one who spoke. Naturally. "I vote we quit," he said, floating beside them in his slightly dented hoverpack. "Change names. Buy a nice asteroid. Sell novelty mugs. I'll print one that says I went to kill Baba Yaga and all I got was cursed tea and trauma." No one laughed. The forest had changed again. Gone were the sunflowers. Now the world was gray, ashen trees with bark like scorched bone, sky darker than memory. They hadn't walked far, but the geography was different. Completely different. Even the smell had shifted, from sugar and pine to rust and spoiled ink. "We didn't walk. The land walked around us," Vex whispered. Kroll stopped. "This is illusion. She is playing tricks." "She hasn't moved," Marvin muttered. "We're the ones being peeled like onions." They reached a river. It wasn't there before. The water was mirror flat, except where it boiled. Not with heat, but names. Words rose from the surface like steam. Names from their pasts. Places they'd destroyed. People they'd never meant to remember. Kroll stared as the name Ilva appeared in the water. He flinched. Marvin hovered a little higher. "Fun game. Trauma bingo." "I do not bleed from memory," Kroll growled, stepping forward. The river didn't let him. Instead, the ground surged. A figure rose from the water. Not fast, not sudden. Just inevitable. As if it had always been there and only now chose to be noticed. It was a man. Kind eyes. Smiling mouth. Half his skull was missing. "Kroll," the man said gently. "You killed me during the peace treaty. Remember?" Kroll lunged with his backup blade. The figure caught the blade mid-air. Smiled wider. Spoke again. It was a Tuesday. The blade exploded into flowers. Real ones. Soft. Sweet-smelling. Kroll stumbled back, shaking. Marvin whistled. "Okay, so this river gives you ghosts and horticulture. That's original." Vex reached a hand toward the water. A shape rose to meet her. It was a perfect mirror. Her own form, but smiling and whole. The version of her that had never become a weapon. The mirror Vex stepped out, touched her real self's face, and whispered something only she could hear. Vex collapsed, shuddering. Kroll grabbed her before she hit the ground. "We need to leave," he said. "Now." Marvin didn't argue. He was already scanning for exit paths. The forest shifted again. Now the trees had eyes. Literal eyes. Blinking. Watching. No leaves. Just bone-like branches, growing from skulls stacked like fruit. The air tasted of static and burnt sugar. They walked. They walked until they forgot why walking mattered. Until the sound of their own footfalls was replaced by something else. Soft music. A xylophone. Faint. Childlike. Marvin's speakers hissed. "Do you hear that?" he asked. "No," Vex whispered, eyes wide. "It's Pop Goes the Weasel," Marvin muttered. "Old Earth nursery rhyme. I had that tune on a chip once." It was. Something popped. Not in the air. In Vex. Her shoulder dislocated violently, as if pulled by a string. She screamed. Kroll drew his third knife, an obsidian shard carved from a sentient asteroid, and slashed at the empty air. The string holding Vex vanished with a hiss. Marvin turned. "It's a trap. Puppet logic." "What?" Kroll barked. "She's not just messing with space and memory," Marvin snapped. "She's applying narrative rules. Children's logic. Fairy tale causality. This forest obeys story physics." Kroll didn't understand, but he understood danger. He carried Vex now. She twitched in his arms, muttering half-sentences in alien tongues. They came upon a house. Not the cabin. Different. This one was upside down. balanced on one shivering leg made of old prosthetics and broom handles. Its windows blinked. The door was upside down too, just above their heads. It opened. A rope ladder fell. A voice called down. "Lunches ready." Marvin backed away. "Nope. Nope. Noppity nope." Vex opened one eye. "She wants to feed us?" "I don't trust food," Krull growled. "Or stairs." "It's a test," Marvin muttered. "She wants us to refuse." "That's the trick." "Probably." The ladder coiled like a snake and dragged Marvin upward. He screamed. His toaster shell clanked against wood. Then he vanished inside. Krull cursed in 6 languages and followed. The house welcomed them. It was warm, cozy, utterly hostile. The walls were wallpapered in shifting script, children's handwriting. Over and over again. "Be polite. Say please. Don't kill guests." The floorboards whispered apologies. At the dining table sat Baba Yaga, smiling. Marvin sat beside her, locked in a tea-stirring loop. Every time he stirred, the spoon whispered a different insult. "I made lunch," she said sweetly. "You can eat. Or not. It makes no difference. You'll still leave full." Krull set Vex in a chair. She winced, looked up, and blinked. The table was covered in food. All of it from their memories. Not rations. Not battlefield protein sludge. Home food. Krull saw something he hadn't tasted in centuries. A roasted beast from his clan's old rites. Spiced berries. Warm bread. Marvin's plate was stacked with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Crustless. Vex was served ink. Liquid thought. Poetry in edible form. Baba Yaga watched them. No one moved. "Eat," she said. "We came to kill you," Krull said. "I know. We failed." "Yes." He stood. "Why toy with us?" She sipped her drink. "I'm not toying. I'm measuring." "Measuring what?" Marvin asked. "Your usefulness." That paused them. Krull's hand hovered near his last blade. "We're not tools." "You are," she replied gently. "Everyone is. The question is whether you're sharp or already broken." She stood. Something shifted in the room. Gravity. Light. Certainty. "You 3 were sent by the Jorvith Emperor. The coward with soft hands and a rotten throne. He thinks he can excise me like a tumor." "No offense," Marvin said, "but you are terrifying." "Of course," she said. "But I'm not a disease. I'm a vaccine." She circled the table slowly. "You were meant to kill me. But that was never the real job. The real job was to see if you could understand me." "I don't want to understand you," Krull muttered. "Too late," she whispered. The lights blinked. For a moment, the room wasn't a room. It was a battlefield, a library, a child's nursery. All at once. "You think this is magic," she said. "It's not. It's just Earth." Vex gasped. The room returned to normal. Baba Yaga leaned in close. "This planet was abandoned. Forgotten. Except by me. I stayed. I remember what humans are." "You are human?" Marvin asked. She smiled. "Once. Now I'm consequences." Silence again. Then she turned to leave. "Wait," Krull said. "Why let us live?" She paused. "Because you're not done being useful. Go home. Tell the Emperor you succeeded. Collect your pay. But remember." She faced them, and her eyes were stars collapsing inward. "Death isn't the end. Sometimes it's the appointment before the real meeting." The house shuddered. The floor opened. They fell, screaming, laughing, dying, or something like it. They landed in a field. The sky was blue. The trees were normal again. Krull staggered to his feet. Vex floated upright. Marvin's toast slot sparked. Is that it?" Marvin asked. "No," Krull said. He turned to see the same cabin as before, just sitting there, waiting. A kettle whistled from inside. "I think," Krull said slowly, "we're still in the test." "Lunch break's over," Marvin said, voice shaking. "Back to dying." The cabin was back where they'd first seen it, exactly 20 steps ahead, framed by the same skeletal trees, the same misleadingly peaceful chimney smoke, as if time had folded in on itself and pressed repeat. But something had changed. Krull felt it in his bones, the ones that hadn't broken yet. Vex felt it in the way the shadows whispered when no one else was listening. Marvin didn't feel it per se, but he updated his internal diagnostics to cautiously pessimistic. They didn't walk to the door this time. It opened for them. Inside, the same floral wallpaper greeted them. Same bookshelves. Same rocking chair. But the air was thicker now. Not just in scent, though the lavender undertones were sharper, but in weight. Like secrets too old for language were pushing against the fabric of the room. Baba Yaga was already seated at the table, pouring tea with clinical grace. Her face showed no surprise, no welcome, only inevitability. She gestured to the empty seats. This time, she said, "We talk." Marvin hovered toward the table. "Are we out of the puppet zone?" "For now," she said. "You're in the living room of probability. The furniture behaves." Krull sat without a word. His eyes tracked every shadow. His newest blade remained hidden, but trembling beneath his wrist guard. Vex materialized slowly beside him, her form more stable now, but her edges still hummed with distrust. The tea steamed. 3 cups. Again. But this time, Baba Yaga had a 4th cup for herself. "Before you say anything," Marvin began, "we didn't sign up for metaphysical performance art. We were just supposed to kill you, get paid, and maybe buy a moon made of cheese." "You can still get paid," she said, sipping. "Yeah, but now I have nightmares about forks that whisper." "They're helpful if you listen." Krull set his cup down untouched. "Speak plainly. You've toyed with us long enough." "I haven't toyed with you," she said. "I've tested your threads, seen how you unravel. You were chosen not for your skill, but for your ability to see what's underneath." "What's underneath is a woman who can boil souls in her teapot," Marvin said. "And yet I made cookies." She placed a plate on the table, sugar dusted, golden brown. The cookies screamed softly. Marvin hovered back. "Right," he muttered. "So what's the real game, teacup Terminator?" Baba Yaga leaned forward. "The Empire is trying to erase Earth from memory. Not just kill me. Unmake everything connected to human chaos. They're trying to sterilize the story." "That's insane," Vex murmured. "No," she said, voice quiet. "It's strategic." She rose, walking to the fireplace. With a tap of her finger, the flames parted, revealing a holographic projection. Not just stars, but threads. Lines of culture, art, memory, myth. They twisted and tangled through constellations like spider silk soaked in starlight. "This," she said, "is the galaxy's narrative web. Every planet contributes to it. Songs, stories, battles, jokes." She pointed to one cluster of tangled threads, bright, vibrant, unpredictable. "Earth's influence." Marvin squinted. "That one's playing Die Hard." "Yes," she said, on loop. "I respect that." Krull studied the web. "The Jorvith want control. They fear chaos. They fear humans," she corrected. "They fear a species that weaponized sarcasm, that invented nuclear bombs before universal healthcare, that wrote poetry while setting themselves on fire." Marvin whistled. "That's us, baby. They fear what can't be predicted." Earth was quarantined. Humanity spread anyway, through art, through memes, through the very logic of the universe. She turned to face them. "I am not their enemy. I am the lock. The last hinge in a door that should never open. If I fall, they rewrite everything. Retroactively. Humans become footnotes. Or worse, become reasonable." Krull growled. "What does this have to do with us?" She returned to the table. "You are my messengers now. Your failed attempt gave me proof. Your emperor has made contact with something older than this galaxy. He's bargaining with the editors." Marvin's screen glitched. "Wait. Like censorship demons?" "Worse," Baba Yaga said. "Conceptual purists. Beings who believe the universe should be logical, efficient, and symmetrical." Vex flinched. "Those are fairy tales." "No," Baba Yaga said softly. "I am a fairy tale. They are what hunts me." The room grew cold. "They're coming. Unless we act first." Krull stood. "You want assassins to fight beings made of narrative law. I want you to be the story they can't delete." A beat of silence. Marvin made a popping noise. I hate how much sense that makes. Baba Yaga said again. This war isn't fought with weapons. Not entirely. It's fought with belief, symbols, memory. I've anchored myself here, but I can't strike. That's your role now. She snapped her fingers. A scroll appeared in midair. Old parchment. Ink that shimmered like stardust. What is this? Krull asked. Your script. Your new mission. You will deliver this to the Citadel of Edits, deep within the Jorvith archive. Let them read it. Let them fear it. Why us? Vex asked quietly. Because, she said, you've already stepped outside their control. You survived me. Krull took the scroll. It pulsed faintly. Marvin hesitated. What if we refuse? Then, the galaxy becomes an algorithm. No jokes. No chaos. No children's drawings. Just spreadsheets. Yikes, Marvin muttered. I hate spreadsheets. Vex touched the scroll. Her form steadied. I will go. Krull nodded. So will I. Marvin sighed. Well, I did survive being fed to a haunted oven once. Might as well double down. Baba Yaga smiled. Good. She handed Marvin a biscuit. It screamed again. He ate it anyway. Just one question, he said, chewing. Yes. Why us? Really? Her smile faded. Just a flicker. Because you remind me of what we were, before we became legends. That stuck in the air, heavier than silence. She turned away. The house will take you back to your ship. The galaxy awaits. They stood. Marvin floated. The scroll glowed brighter now. As they reached the door, Baba Yaga said one last thing. If they ask who sent you, tell them Baba Yaga is real, and she's drinking tea on their graves. The door opened. The forest was gone. They stepped into starlight. The Citadel of Edits loomed like an accusation carved from obsidian and silence. It wasn't just a building. It was the idea of finality shaped into walls. Nestled at the galactic core, wrapped in 12 layers of bureaucratic gravity, and defended by automated drones that filed complaints faster than they fired bullets, the Citadel was where narratives were trimmed, erased, perfected. It was where truth went to get its tie straightened and its soul laundered. Krull didn't care. He stalked down the main causeway with the gait of a man who had already killed everything he'd once feared. His armor was scuffed, his eyes steady, and his hidden blade now carried something extra, a rune burned in by Baba Yaga herself, humming with forbidden logic. Vex walked beside him, a fixed form for the first time in decades. She had chosen a tall, androgynous frame cloaked in shifting glass, but her gaze no longer flickered. She had found something terrifying in that cabin, herself unfragmented, and she hadn't looked away. Marvin hovered behind them, polished and unusually quiet. His outer casing now gleamed with warding symbols that interfered with enemy auto-targeting software, and he carried the scroll like it was a holy relic nestled inside his toe slot. Every few steps, he emitted the faint chime of an old Windows 95 error message. He refused to explain why. They were stopped at the outer gate by an archivist drone. Purpose of visit, it chirped in a voice that sounded like a stapler trying to sing. Krull raised his hand. His palm bore the sigil, Baba Yaga's mark. The drone scanned it, paused. Its optical sensors flickered, then went dark. Smoke curled from its ports as its protocol crashed. It fell with a gentle whump. I liked that one, Marvin said. Had character. No one else tried to stop them. They reached the main chamber, a sterile, amphitheater-sized auditorium, where thought itself was filed in decimal categories. At the center stood the curator, a towering being stitched from clean lines and legal disclaimers. Its voice echoed not through air, but through intention. You do not have clearance to deliver narrative structures, it intoned. Submit to edit or be removed from continuity. Krull stepped forward. We have a message. The curator tilted its head. All messages are pre-reviewed for symmetry, plausibility, and moral palatability. Yours is unauthorized. Marvin floated higher. Yeah, and it's about to go viral. He ejected the scroll. It hovered in midair, unfurled itself with a whisper like an old librarian gasping, and began to burn. Not with fire, but with presence. Words carved from human myth, Earth's chaos. Memories wrapped in lullabies and war cries. It rewrote the room just by existing. The curator screamed. It sounded like static being forced through a flute. This is illogical, it spat. This is resistant. This is comedy. Vex stepped forward. It's truth. You don't own that anymore. The walls cracked. Reality hiccuped. Dozens of lesser drones emerged, swarming. Security override, one shouted. Deploy conceptual erasure units. Kroll welcomed them. He moved through the wave like a blade slicing clean through doctrine. Every step was a refusal. Every blow was a statement. They could not delete what had already become real. He was proof that violence, when harnessed to memory, could rewrite history instead of erasing it. Vex danced beside him, her body shifting in milliseconds, dodging lasers by predicting narrative intention. She knew how they wrote endings. She was done playing along. Marvin triggered a looped broadcast into the Citadel's comms grid. It was Earth footage, Baba Yaga pouring tea while 1,000 warships burned behind her. Her face was calm. Her eyes were jokes the universe couldn't take back. This is not sanctioned, the curator bellowed. This violates poetic restraint. She is the poem, Marvin replied. And the punchline. The scroll exploded. Light consumed the chamber, but not light as physics knew it. It was the glow of 1,000,000 bedtime stories told by imperfect parents. Of sitcoms that got canceled too soon. Of graffiti that made people stop and think. It was unapproved meaning, the kind that stuck. The Citadel trembled. On worlds halfway across the galaxy, people forgot which truths they had agreed to. Soldiers laid down their rifles and laughed at private jokes. Children drew pictures of witches with teacups and laser cannons. An emperor sneezed in the middle of a speech and forgot what came next. The curator collapsed. Its body dissolved into grammatical correction marks and disapproving footnotes. Kroll stood in the silence that followed, breathing hard. Blood dripped from his gauntlet, black and red and golden. Vex moved to his side, eyes steady. Marvin hovered down. Did we win? Kroll looked around. We unlost. Sirens rang through the Citadel. The Emperor was coming. Not just metaphorically, literally. A dropship was inbound, massive and ugly and smug. Its belly opened as it landed, and out strode Emperor Drozhan himself, robed, sneering, flanked by a dozen elite mine knights. He didn't speak at first. He surveyed the destruction. The broken scroll, the empty chamber, the holes in the narrative grid. Then he said, "You were supposed to kill her." "We tried," Marvin said cheerfully. "She made us cookies instead." The Emperor's lips curled. "You realize you've endangered everything. Earth is a plague." "She's a cure," Vex said. "Humanity is an infestation." "No," Kroll said. "Humanity is the question your empire never dared to answer." The Emperor drew a sleek rod from his robe. It pulsed with story-killer energy, the kind that unmade identities. "You had one job," he whispered. "Actually," Marvin said, "we had tea." The floor shook. From the shadows, something moved. A cabin. Not landed. Not transported. Grown. Its legs unfolded, mechanical, bone-jointed, steaming with myth. It walked into the Citadel as if invited. Its windows glowed with hearth light. Its chimney puffed cheerful smoke. The Emperor stepped back. No. The door opened. Baba Yaga stepped out. She wore no armor, no crown, just her shawl and slippers. And in her hand, an iron teapot. "Hello again," she said, voice soft. "You were contained," the Emperor barked. "You contained nothing," she said. "You only forgot to be afraid." He lifted the rod. She lifted the teapot. The air ruptured. His weapon fired first, but the beam twisted midair, transformed into a lullaby. The sound of a mother humming over a battlefield. The Emperor staggered. Her teapot hissed. She poured. Tea hit the floor, and reality melted. The floor beneath the Emperor vanished. Not into a hole. Into homework. His robes became pajamas. His crown became a report card. "You can't do this," he screamed. "I'm not doing it," she said. "The story is." He fell. Into irrelevance. Into a footnote. into the part of the index nobody reads. And then he was gone. Just gone. Not dead. Just edited out. The remaining knights dropped their weapons. One knelt. Another wept. The scroll reappeared, burned but still whole. Baba Yaga picked it up and tucked it into her sleeve. Then she looked at them, her assassins. No one remembers the editors, she said. But everyone remembers the rebels. Krull nodded. Vex breathed. Marvin played the Golden Girls theme, soft and proud. They walked out together, past the broken drones, past the crumbling dogma. The citadel of edits would stand no more. Not because it burned, but because no one feared it. Outside, the stars were brighter. As they boarded their ship, Baba Yaga turned once more to them. There will be more. Always more. Krull nodded. We'll be ready. She smiled. And then the cabin walked away, its legs clicking rhythmically, its windows flickering with strange comfort. On the ship, Marvin took the pilot seat. So what now? Early retirement? Cookbook deal? Galactic tour of Baba's greatest hits. Vex looked out the window. We tell the story. Which part? All of it, Krull said. Terror. Truth. Marvin beeped. I'll make merch. They laughed. Behind them, somewhere in the infinite dark, the galaxy whispered a new truth to itself. The Baba Yaga lived, and she had assassins now.